So my take, giving British announcers a bigger role on U.S. national broadcasts would intensely make games feel bigger and expose how stale American commentary has become. Yeah, I think it'd be very interesting to see, and I think what they need to do with this, because you showed me, I saw the video you sent to me of British announcers announcing the NFL playoffs. I forget which game it
Mhm.
was exactly, but how much they were into it, I think it just is totally different than what we've seen from some of our U.S. announcers that we've had. Some of them are great, some of them just get very stale, some of them are just all over some certain players that just get annoying even when they're not playing. They still talk about this one to two players in the NFL. And I think British announcers have always been good at many sports, even like during the Olympics, you know. British
Mhm.
announcers in soccer, you have to be quick in soccer because they're passing the ball a lot. It's a quick game. So, you know, the memory they have, the knowledge they have of the sport, it's so great. And then how enthusiastic and how much they get into the game brings so much energy to us watching, you know, across the pond, you could say, you know, the Atlantic. When I watch any British game, you know, EPL game, even Spanish division game, they're so great because the announcers are so amazing. They're so, you know, committed to the game, committed to these teams, and I think what they would do, they would sort of embarrass a lot of our announcers here in the US, part of NBC, Fox, Peacock, all of them. I think they could take a lot of jobs here, and I think a good way to sort of try this out and sort of see how it goes is next year, you know, when we have the international games, have international announcers announce during the big streaming for us, you know. Yes, give them their what is it like be something sports, BMT Sports, you know that European channel where there's a lot of soccer, you know, those announcers, put them on, you know, Fox as well, and let's just see how it goes. Take a shot on it. Like I said, what's it gonna hurt? If it doesn't work out well, hey, we tried something. It shows that you guys are being innovative and trying to think outside the box, and just keep it fresh.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I love the direction that you took this take right here, John, because
Mhm.
that's exactly it. You know, if we're going to be emphasizing more international games going across
Mhm.
the pond, like you said, and having, at least two,
Mhm.
games in Britain itself, I think that, it's something worthwhile to kind of
Mhm.
look into and having some British announcers give it a go. And the gentleman, in the clip that I had sent, his name is Will Gavin. He's with Talk Sport,
Mhm.
and the dude is just a bundle of energy, and I love it. And this
Mhm.
is honestly, this it takes me to a little bit of recency bias of
Yeah.
myself. I've been binging the hell out of Ted Lasso in the last week, and
Okay.
I'm a tremendous fan of it. And just their commentary is
Yeah.
fantastic. And then having that pop up on my feed, it was a must share. And I feel like the way he called it, I think it was a touchdown pass from Purdy against the Eagles this
Mhm.
past Sunday. And it's just a different level of energy. It's a different take on things, and it seems like he's well equipped to announce an
Mhm.
NFL game. He's very familiar with the sport,
Mhm.
and coming to on the other side with some, I guess, stagnant nature, people talking about just how overemphasized the love of like Tony Romo has for Mahomes or Josh Allen. People were
Uh.
absolutely grilling Tony Romo this past week with the Jags and Bills game. I didn't have a chance to watch a lot of it, but I definitely will take their word for it because we've talked about
Mhm.
Romo in particular on the show and how his fanboyism for certain quarterbacks on certain teams. And I think that it's totally there. It sounds oftentimes very unprepared. So the easy thing to go to is just, oh yeah, let's talk, about here's a guy, Josh Allen. That's Collinsworth.
Yeah.
But it's just so ezy for them to go back to. But it can sound stagnant. It just gets
Mhm.
old. It's like people would rather watch it mute at times, and
Yeah.
it's just a big bummer. But I just feel like mixing it up a bit would be honestly a good thing, and maybe put some of these American commentators in check.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it'd put them on check. I think it would sort of help them get out of their comfort zone and just some of that stagnant type of announcing they do. Like I say, you know, I mentioned having, you know, British international announcers, you know, have them paired up with someone, you know, have Tony Romo paired up with, you know, him.
Mhm.
Have Chris Collinsworth, you know, because that's another name that always comes up of him really being so biased towards QBs and especially some of his favorite QBs, not to name names, Patrick Mahomes, always being talked about no matter what. Even when he's not playing, you know, he'll probably bring him up two times. You know, that's the over under. So it sort of let's try something different because a lot of people have noticed it. Like I said, you've seen a lot of the comments. I did sort of watch that Jaguars game, but I sort of watched it the way you said. I watched it on mute. You know, the kid was playing, walking around. We were cleaning, making food. So you know, I'd always just look up to watch the plays because I didn't really care about the announcement because like I say, Tony Romo has been an okay announcer at times, some of the stuff he has, but sometimes I'm just not that interested in hearing him. And you know, like I say, you got to bring that sidekick, and his sidekick usually doesn't help him. So some of these international announcers, broadcasters could do very successful out here, and it's something maybe they should look into. And it brings that international fandom as well because some of these announcers have a fan following, people that like listening to them and they may want to watch games that, NFL games that they're announcing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, I just again brings like a different view of things, and quite frankly, I think it would be good for an international stage. You like,
Hmm.
the emphasis of having, I guess, because we're talking about British announcers get into it. Maybe people of Britain will be like, wow, it's diversifying the
Hmm.
way that we can announce sports. This maybe can be on a more broad scale. Think about
Yeah.
the NBA. Think about hockey. Hockey can be announced maybe kind of similar to the way soccer could be because of the
Mhm.
up-tempo pace, the
Yeah.
constant rolling over the time. I just think that the mix would be fantastic. So I totally agree with you on this
Hmm.
take. And yeah, even having him pair up with a guy like Tony,
Hmm.
maybe he could bring a lot more out
Yeah.
of him. I think him constantly saying, Tony Romo in a British accent would be pretty badass. Like, yeah,
It would
just
be.
say it again. Yeah, I
Uh,
think it would be great.
Yeah, I think the conversations that would come out of it and just some of the stories, because sometimes some of these announcers about storytelling, going back to the past, and it's sort of there's a lot of history in sports in Europe, that these announcers know about from soccer, from other types of sports that could sort of start bringing a sort of mixture of just sports fandom and not just one specific sport. Because like I say, we're big fans of many sports and all sports. I think we'll watch any sport possible when we get the chance to. From baseball, hockey, soccer, football, basketball. We'll watch WNBA, tennis, whatever's going on. We've talked about Wimbledon before, golf, so it sort of brings that to the mix, which would keep me interested because, like I say, sometimes some of these football games like today was a little stale for a bit. And when you get not interested in the game, you want to hear some great stories, bring it back somehow. And I think British announcers, along with some of our US announcers, could do pretty well with that. And just seeing their interactions would be cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, because one person I will shout out that is American is Tom Brady. I feel like he's done a fantastic job this NFL season. I really enjoy listening to his commentary. He announced the Niners Eagles game last night. I
Hmm.
feel like that was, there were certain points where it was pretty beneficial. He talked about throwing it downfield on really windy games, how you want to position the ball. You don't
Yeah.
want it floating up because then it's just going to go with the wind even more. So you want to have like a backward C is what he was saying when you hold the football and throw it. I feel like that commentary, along with, stories that, could be brought up in certain situations or memories, I feel like that's the biggest benefit, maybe because, Tom might be a little bit better than Tony because he won
Hmm.
more. So, that could help. But yeah, I don't know what's going on with Tony. He was good, like maybe the first season or two, because, it seemed like the commentary he's bringing was kind
Hmm.
of innovative and new. He's just gotten so stagnant. And I feel like he's just less prepared for games. So, why not bring, a different accent, a different
Hmm.
spice to it? And I think it would be fantastic. And then also, even it doesn't even just have to be, British announcers. It could be, Spanish, as well.
Yeah.
Like obviously you have to know the language, but even listening to it, even if you don't know like a Spanish, it
Yeah.
could be honestly kind of fun because the excitement level
Yeah.
of it all is tremendous. I get a kick out of I don't know his name. I know he's a sideline announcer or sideline reporter for the NFL via ESPN. And his interviews with Aaron Rodgers are fantastic. I think after the Ravens
Okay.
game, he was like, "Where's the Aaron Rodgers like, where's the tequila?" And it seemed like they had good camaraderie. So,
Yeah.
it's kind of good. I just think that diversifying the broadcasting game, I don't know, might be necessary going forward to spice it up a little bit.
Yeah, and I think it's for a lot of sports, because when you're sort of mentioning the Spanish announcers, thinking about it, when I watch like MLS soccer,
Mhm.
announcers are into it, but I just don't feel the same enthusiasm that I do like if I would watch it on Telemundo or Univision. Those announcers, for some reason, like with and especially like with the World Cup coming up, yes, NBC, Peacock, or whatever stations are carrying the World Cup. A lot of people watch it, but honestly, us that are mixed, mixed race, we understand Spanish to speak Spanish. We're gonna go to Univision. We're gonna go to Telemundo. We're gonna go to all these other Spanish broadcasting because of the announcers. It's the same exact game, but the announcers are what make the game so much greater. I remember watching the World Cup final, here in Cali. I think it was like 7 a.m.
Mhm.
And I was watching it, in Spanish because it was just so much better. And like I say, nothing against those U.S. announcers. I think they do a great job, but I think they need to find a way to bring that energy, that enthusiasm, because it's really what catches us. Some of the catchphrases, how when there's a goal, how you sort of put so much into that goal sound, the goal call. It goes a long way. So, like I said, I think MLS maybe needs a little bit of a change, in this part as well.
Yeah, absolutely. In the way of the world now, one thing that I kind of think about is, we're less inclined to watch cable TV. So people miss out on a lot of things that, could be brought up in talk shows, things like that. And, coming along with that is, obviously TV personalities. We see a little bit less of it. Obviously, we have people like Stephen A. Smith or, Shannon Sharp that, bring, a different, level to it where, we are familiar with them. But do you feel like that has kind of played a bit in some of this? Like, for example, Dan Patrick. I know we talked about him earlier today. He was a
Hmm.
huge,
Yeah.
part of Sports Center growing up.
Hmm.
He then turns into, doing, I guess, a little bit of reporting, announcing, for
Hmm.
NFL games, and he's just kind of enjoyable to listen to.
Yeah.
Do you feel like some of it, like maybe not following along with a person's career, might play a factor into it, or maybe not as much?
I think it could. Yeah, I think it could go both ways. It just depends on who it is. Because, like I say, someone like Dan Patrick, it's someone I remember in ESPN, and now what he's doing, his reporting was great. And I think a lot of us watched him for that stuff, you know. So I think at times it could, sometimes it might not be as great, though. You know, I think it won't really matter.
Yeah, I guess it's like transitioning over from, doing a broadcast with a, like a TV talk show.
Hmm.
It is a little different. But yeah, just kind of thought about that. And I'm glad
Yeah.
you brought up the Olympics too, or World Cup even, because then we get some announcers that aren't really used to it at
Hmm.
times and are there for, a game or two,
Hmm.
to announce. And, that it's kind of fun that way.
Yeah, no, it changes it up. It gives you a little mix of something else, and sometimes that's just all you need. It's just a little change. Like we're not asking Tony Romo to change everything about him. He already changed his face a lot with a lot of the Botox he got. You know, he's looking very plasticky, rubber or leathery. But it's like, but we need something different every now and then. Don't just stick to the same old things. Same with Chris Collinsworth. You know, he does well at times. There's at times I don't mind listening to him, but then there's a lot of times it's just very repetitive, you know, and always saying the same things and his little biases, you know, which get me. So it's sort of like get away from the QBs and being on top of Patrick Mahomes, you know, go to a different QB, focus on the QBs there, you know, really learn about them, you know, investigate, you know, read into them and know different stats about them, not just your top two favorites.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Tony Romo's, I guess, whatever he's getting with his face. It reminded me a lot of Tim Allen in Christmas with the Cranks when he like just gets way too much
Yeah.
Botox and he can't even like eat or swallow anything.
Uh,
And another one is I saw I don't think it was yeah, I don't think this was announced at like the awards over the weekend with the movies, but I saw somebody make a joke about how Leonardo DiCaprio's face just keeps getting whiter. I can't unsee it. Just
it could be.
same thing with Tony.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's
Uh,
whatever's in the Botox.
when I think of Tony Romo, I think of Just Go With It, the one movie with Adam Sandler, and
Oh
in the
yes.
first scene with the guy with the Botox, like, barely what to say.
You got a little more work done, huh? Yeah, just a little bit, just a tweaking. Maintenance. I just want to stay in the game, Danny. I don't want to hit home runs, just some singles. That's all.
You gotta stop, don't tell
so
me. Do you have any feeling in your face?
just in this one spot right here, and then from the eyebrows down, dead.
Is it a car alarm? He's laughing.
That's
He's
what
mumbling.
yeah, that's sort of what he looks like.
So
Sorry,
good.
Tony, we're not trying to be mean, but
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
uh,
we'll talk about you a little less if you stop, fanboying.
yeah, but yeah, we'll see where announcing sort of changes because, like I say, I think that video's gotten a lot of views. I think a lot of people are going to be talking about it and how it could make a difference here in the States, you know, and sort of how to bring an international flavor to not just football but a lot of sports.